Hi guys, welcome to Robin Hood Diaries this evening. I am, as always, very glad you could join me to share this special influence in my sordid, complicated, and long life. As previewed, roughly, it is my possession by, obsession with Miss Diana Ross. It is deeper than I think anybody, unless you're kind of obsessed with Diana Ross, can understand. I'm going to try to keep this somewhat chronological, but she was such oxygen to me for several years that it just kind of blurs into this whole experience rather than these moments. So, let's see. My goodness, where do I start? Let's just get a taste of the end at the beginning. I was, as I mentioned yesterday, I believe, or the day before yesterday, that I was, film aficionado was all about my movie that I made. That I had been, watched the Oscars from a very young age. So I did see this, I believe it was the 74 Oscars, but I didn't know what I was watching. We'll get back. And just let's assume it was the 74 Oscars. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I should not be wrong on this one, considering. Okay, so I saw that. I was not really not enamored, but I just wasn't really into Miss Ross up until about 76, 77, which is going to start putting me at freshly 10 years old. So let's just say 77, full throttle is where my story with Miss Ross begins. So of course I was fans of other superstars. One in particular, you may know whom I'm talking about or who I'm talking about. And that is somebody that I was obsessed with their talent, but it was hard for me to be starstruck because they were close to me. But this is all, when I've done shows on music or rating songs or singers, vocalists, whatever, I have been known to say Miss Ross is the example and is sort of kind of exempt from the discussion. And that's only because she is royal to me. Well, yes, in a way she was royalty to me, in the adjective sense, more than anything. So, oh my God, Diana Ross to me was glamour personified. I was obsessed with her story that many superstars had, but I mean, coming from absolutely nothing, whatever your opinions of how she got her way to where she became is for you to think about. But to me, she clawed her way from 4 girls through 3 girls to a headliner to a bona fide superstar. She's not Elvis, perhaps as well known, in the middle of nowhere on the globe. But to me, she may as well have been. So again, to me, glamour personified. That's what started hitting me. Then the Diana Ross and Supremes anthology came out, which is I believe it was 4 LPs or two vinyls, or 3 vinyls. Anyway, that became gospel to me. I can, with assurance, say that I can probably sing along to perhaps 97% of everything that she did until 1979. Easily. I mean, without blinking an eye, I can say that. So I started out getting possessed by her concerts. So every concert that she did from at least 1977 through 1979, I saw in LA. I don't know how many there were. There may have been 3, there may have been 6, 5, there wasn't 2. And I was there for every one of them, no matter where. The open air amphitheater, before it was, when it was open air, the blimp flew over the open air Pacific Amphitheater, and it said Diana Ross on it as she was opening the show with that sort of what was her thing at the time, which was a huge screen, gorgeous white descending staircase. She is decked out in satin and everything. And as she is filmed walking down the stairs, of course, as we all know, the screen at the bottom opens up, and when it dissolves to that silhouette, she comes walking out in the same outfit. Those concerts became religious experiences for me. Again, Glamour personified, obsessed with the anthology. Then we're sliding into Mahogany. Now, I had certain admiration or obsessions with her after Mahogany that even more appreciated Miss Ross than my obsession during Mahogany. So I'm going to these concerts, these religious experiences, whenever I could in Los Angeles. I would have gone to Guam if I had to. And then Mahogany comes out. So now we're in a whole different rocket ship because I lived and breathed Mahogany. When Mahogany came out, I lived and breathed that film. Between this personification of glamour, the obsession with her music, the knowing every word and every syllable, and then the concerts, again, were religious experiences. Can you imagine being in an open-air Pacific Amphitheater in 1977 with a blimp going over you, flashing Diana Ross, and then that whole screen, and then the concert, which is just like beyond. Yes, there were the Donna Summers and there were the other goddesses. They weren't royalty like Miss Ross. So now Miss Ross is being taped all over my walls, okay? Anything I could pull out of Ebony, Life, people, anything, as long as it was just the picture, maybe with a little editorial in the corner. That was mine. It was cut out and it was put on the wall. Now, it wasn't plastered like my girlfriends in the mid-70s who had like Peter Frampton and whatever. No, it was shots of her like behind the scenes, like making Mahogany. And this then led into my awareness of Lady Sings the Blues, which came significantly earlier than Mahogany did. And I didn't have the Lady Sings the Blues experience. And I was already trenched deep in my possession by Miss Ross. So, plus I had brushes with Miss Ross. I went to the same elementary school as a couple of her daughters. And so she, movie stars, Cher, everybody was there. And it was not unusual to see them come for an event or pick up their children or whatever. So I don't know, like Saint Bernadette appearing moment for me was, and I've mentioned this in another show very briefly, I was at the end of one hall, she was at the end of the other, of the same hall, in school, after hours, nobody around. She's walking this way, exiting the building, having dropped off, picked up, checked with whatever, her daughters. And I'm going to school, to the yard. And we're the only ones in the hallway. And I walked by her, I got as close to brushing her by accident as I could. My peripheral vision had never been so sharp in my whole life. And I could smell her walk by. I could feel the breeze of her walking by. And that's like, those moments where they say, oh, I'll never wash my hand again. Well, I guess I would have to never breathe again because it was an entire experience. And this is in the thick of it, guys. So, one moment, you have those moments, right? Like a visual moment mixed with what you were hearing at the time or whatever, that wasn't necessarily the first or the last of anything, but it was a moment that maybe was in the middle that just sort of wrapped it all together for you as far as what Miss Ross meant to me in terms of really kind of coming out. Ironically, that being one of her big hits later on, because I had a moment and something soaked in. It wasn't like it was, when I was 12 and I started like, wow, okay, like, I'm gay. But it was, I was living on Fountain and Taft with my father, my stepmother, my stepbrother, and my baby sister. And across the way was another old building, busy street, Franklin. And it was summertime in LA and everything, LA 78, 77 screeching through 78 for me was the time of my life. Head and shoulders. So there's this moment and I'm looking across from the Taft house and there's a guy sitting in his window with the legs out, like it's his apartment, but he's sitting, and Love Hangover is blaring out of his apartment, and he's just there kind of swinging his legs, listening, and seeing that and hearing that so loudly across Franklin. I don't know what, that has never left me when I have certain feelings or thoughts about coming out or influences or whatever. I see that man sitting in his window, listening to Love Hangover, it's loud, and this is the end of 77, and there's something about that visual and that sound and that moment that to this day resonates with me very deeply. And aren't those the weirdest things? Like, of all things, right? It's always like, when you thought about the whatever, that sticks with you forever, and you can never really figure out why. Well, and I still don't know why. Maybe you know why. But that was just kind of, when the cream rose to the surface. So then, as I said, I'll try to kind of keep this moving along. Then came Lady Sings the Blues. So let's now go back to the 74 Oscars. Okay. So I get in a lot of trouble over this one about the win, the Liza Diana win. I watched them, as I said, the 74 Oscars. I did not know what I was looking at. Then, skipping all of this mixed chronology, I then discovered Lady Sings the Blues, who of course ended up on my wall too, torn out of Life magazine, whatever. Now, I see this, I'm already like in the thick of mahogany, like having the mahogany, like Nirvana. And I've already seen the scene where she picks the wax off of herself as she's just raging at Billy D. Williams. So I survived that performance. Then I see Lady Sings the Blues. And of course I'm obsessed with that performance because she is the superior actress. And I see Lady Sings the Blues, and if you watch carefully, like when she's detoxing in the bathroom and they're trying to get in and they're trying to pull at her and she's fighting them off, and before they even get in there, she's staring at herself and she's like just crushed, and she's putting on her makeup and then she smears. How many times have we seen that lipstick smearing scene in movies? Not like hers. So, okay, let's move through that. We've got the wax picking, we've got the smearing, and the heroin detoxing. So, again, I get in a lot of trouble with this. Cabaret was the first movie that I ever saw. Long story. It was a drive-in when I was, God knows, 6 or 7. So, of course, Cabaret. Hey, it's Cabaret, right? Okay. But as an actor, it is supposed to be Best Actress, okay? It's not Best Dancer Performer. It's not Most Charismatic. It's the Best Actress Oscar. So I know everybody, I know. Liza was amazing. I lived and breathed New York when it came out. You know, just amazing, right? Okay, you know, performance, you know, the acting, the welling of the eyes, the kind of indicating of all of the stuff going on. But then there's Miss Ross's performances, as I just iterated. And I'm sorry, you guys. I had people want to beat me up in alleyways over this, but Diana should have gotten that. Miss Ross, you should have gotten that Oscar. The performances that you gave in Lady Sings the Blues, closing all four walls and just being there in the moment, being in Billie Holiday, even if you didn't look like anything like her, was the performance of a lifetime. And you should have had that Oscar. Okay, I'm ready for the emails. I'm ready for all the the torches chasing me like Dr. Frankenstein. But it's the reality, you know. It just is what it is. She gave a better performance. She did not give a better entertainment performance, maybe, because she only had, you know, I don't know, you know, the couple of her Billie Holiday songs to work with. But it was a Best Actress Oscar. So, supposed to go to Best Actress for that year. She was nominated, and there you go. But as the story goes, Billy Gordy crammed Diana down everyone's throat during Oscar season, taking out ads, pushing her into everybody's face, and a lot of people say that the Academy got very turned off by that. And who knows, whatever, in terms of the Academy, whatever. So anyway, I could go on maybe for 3 shows about Miss Ross, but I'm not going to. I hope you get the idea of my story dovetailing with her story, dovetailing with all of these feelings, from the Oscars to The Man in the Window to the anthology to just screaming with my friend Alessia at my house on Genesee. Something about her being God. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thanks for putting up with this one. I know it went over, and you may not even care about Miss Ross, who had a fabulous house on Elevado in Beverly Hills that I used to drive by every once in a while. Modern. Oh, that house. And then imagining her in that house. Okay, thanks again. I adore you every night, every day. Looking forward to this always, as you know. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.